If you can't beat them, join them. That's right, in this video on LFM, I'm going to be trying out the Ford Mustang for the very first time. And armed with the setups from George Boothie, I felt I had the absolute best tools on hand to try and put out my best results thus far in LFM. But as you'll see, it's not a simple case of changing car and producing results. There's plenty of bad moments to unfortunately show you in this week's recap videos. But stick around to the end as I unpack how this car is potentially going to unlock some very good results for me in the near future. Let's dive in. So our story in the Mustang starts at Watkins Glen, and we've qualified P5, and unfortunately I'm going to have to brief you through some bad moments in this week of LFM racing. We come out of turn 1, there's some contact with two cars in front which slows us up on that turn 1 exit, and we get past there by the Nissan, and on the outside the number 14 Ferrari. We're going to come a nice run up the hill though, and this big grunt of this Ford Mustang comes into its own in sector 1 at Watkins Glen. We pull alongside and overall in front of this car as we approach the bus stop. Now we're looking to be cautious in the bus stop, but unfortunately that Ferrari being too aggressive makes contact with the rear of my car, puts me into the wall with big damage. We recover that race somewhat. Then in the second race, I'm getting past here on the outside by this McLaren as we try and get a good exit out of turn 1. A bit of an oversteer moment from that McLaren brings him back down onto the track there unexpectedly, and we make contact, and once again I find myself into the wall in the opening laps there. You can see just an oversteer moment on the exit, a bit of space given, but I probably should have given some more space on exit. Just really was trying to hold on to that position. Really unfortunate, a DNF. Now in the third race is somewhat okay. This mistake here at the bus stop takes me out of a top 10 position, and then this mistake trying to come back through the field, fortunately not taking out that Ferrari in the process, but another spin in this race, and we are able to bring that one back for a P14 finish. However, that race should have been significantly better, but it was very promising signs regardless of the poor results. Yes, I lost a lot of ELO and safety rating in these races at Watkins Glen, but half a second improvements in both qualifying and race pace definitely show that this car was fast. Now we're going to move on to Imola, week 11 of LFM, and we're going to try and put together a much better result here in this Mustang at a track that I know very well. Now we've qualified in P number 7 for this one, and I wasn't really able to put qualifying together unfortunately. A 141.7, which is completely off my normal pace here at Imola. But we're going to come down to the start, and after the disaster of the previous week, I was after some very safe races and after a solid result, maybe not an absolute best result. So we're going to come down towards turn number 1 here. You can see very cautious in the lead into this turn 1. On the outside I have the dual 14 BMW. I'm going to get a decent run through turn number 3 here, unleash the power of this Mustang side by side with the BMW as we come down to turns 5 and 6. Fortunately we get the racing line through 5 then 6, and we come out the other side here up towards the hairpin. Now the Mustang was a little bit trickier on cold tyres compared to the BMW around Imola, so it was a little bit of a rough first lap in most of the races that I do. Even in qualifying it was really hard to switch the tyre on the same way that you can in the BMW. Up to turn number 9 now, cautious through here as well. Very cautious also of track cuts on the circuit. It's very easy to pick them up in a 45-minute race. Certainly didn't want to be disrupting that race with a drive-through for track limits. First gear down through the bowl on this lap. You can go second gear in qualifying. You have to be really on it though, with the traction control cutting in on the way up. So up to the chicane this time round. It doesn't get through the chicane quite as nicely as the BMW does, although I'm in a real groove with that BMW around here. So the signs for this car were good, that there could be more pace in it, but we really needed to lock in and find the groove of this car, which is a little bit different to that BMW. Down down through the final corners now, out the final corner, and up ahead the Ferrari and McLaren. The McLaren gets a bad exit there. That's going to allow the number 13 Ferrari to get alongside here down the straight. And you can see here the power, the straight line speed of this Mustang bringing me into this battle as we cross the line to finish lap number 1. Watching this battle up in front, we're going to stay behind here, see how this one unfolds, and that Ferrari does slip up the inside of the McLaren, who's going to get a bad exit out of turn 3 here. Much better from myself, and we are right behind, pulling out the slipstream. He's moving me over on the track a little bit, right on the inside, braking early to make sure I get the apex, and then the McLaren, he runs wide at turn 6. I almost follow him off track, but it's just enough to stay on the black stuff, and we're going to slip up the outside there into the hairpin now and out the other side to hold on now to a P6, up 1 position from the start, and a decent start to this 45-minute race at Imola. Jumping ahead now to the end of lap number 4 though, and we have quickly established ourselves into near the front of this race. In front of me I have positions 2 through to 5, and I'm actually the first front engine car in this race at this stage, a couple of seconds back to that BMW as well, so it's all eyes forward at this stage. Now up in front in the middle there, the 2 McLarens are swapping positions here on the front straight, and I've definitely found myself in a groove with this car early on in this race. Already a 1:41.132 is a best lap time in these opening laps, a full 6/10 faster than I had in qualifying, so I have a good pace. It was a shame to not get qualifying right, and we're just looking to have a nice clean battle with these cars in front of us. Now we're coming through turns 5 and 6 on this lap, right behind here this 13 Ferrari, who's going to be the car that we follow for the majority of this first stint, and he's going to start dropping off the back of this pack a little bit, and that's going to allow me to close right up as well. Now with 33 minutes on this race still to go, I'm yet to pick up any track cuts, so we're not pushing the boundaries of this circuit too much. Like I said at the start, I was looking for a very safe race, trying to reclaim some safety rating, and I was actually pretty happy here sitting in this P6 position at this point. Coming into these final sets of corners now, a bit of battling up in front. Still the dual card number 4 Ferrari at the front of this train was probably a little bit slower than some of the cars directly behind it, but putting up a solid drive in defence, and that's going to bring the car 9 McLaren into the pit lane for an early stop. 26 minutes to go now, and we are wary of where that car 9 McLaren is. I'm sort of been checking it on the map a little bit. He's a bit in front of where my little pit stop symbol is. That is always on the cautious side, however, and we just don't want to be losing too much time. Fortunately, these cars in front, although there's a little bit of shuffling going on, are not slow, and we are able to just run our own race a little bit off the back of this pack. And in fact, with 26 minutes to go, the dual 5 McLaren, he jumps into the lane now, promoting us up to P4 with that 0.6 second gap to that Ferrari in front, and 4 laps of fuel left in the car. I was quite happy to keep running my own race at this point. End of lap 13 though, and we decide that it's time to come into the lane, deciding to do the opposite of the car in front. So we hit our marks to get the car stopped and hit our marks at the pit stop box as well. We've done everything we can to have ourselves the shortest possible pit stop window, and as we exit the pits here with 21 minutes 30 seconds still to run, we have door 9 and door 5 McLarens just coming by there, so almost done enough there to actually get in front of those 2 drivers through the pit stop cycle, and actually not losing as much time as I expected to that door 9 McLaren through the stops. However, about a 13-minute tyre advantage on car 9. Now behind though, the unknown quantity of this race was the door card 1 Ferrari of Luke Addison. He's doing some last to first challenges, a very, very strong driver in LFM, and I wasn't keen to give up this one easily. However, a mistake out of that final corner you just saw was enough to put Luke directly beside me as we cross the start finish line, so we back out of that one. It is not worth trying to hold him up into turn 1, and we're just going to let him do his job up in front there. He very quickly
gets to the back of the door 9 McLaren, looking to make a move around the outside here in the final sequence of corners. It's going to allow us to close right up out of this final corner as well. Now that door 9 McLaren is in fact the driver I had the contact with last week at Watkins Glen, so it's imperative that we have a nice clean race this time out. I certainly don't like having further issues with drivers where there's small accidents happen. Of course, I don't blame him for my contact last week. I just want to have a nice clean race with him here at Imola. Directly behind now as we start lap number 17, and this will be a tricky pass to make with Icy showing some good pace in his McLaren here. Down to the first corner now on the lap number 19. Luke up in front has started to make some moves up towards the front of the race as well. That door 4 Ferrari has made his stop also. He rejoins back at the front of our queue. So we haven't really had any shuffling at all actually, despite the differences in pit stop strategy through this race. Out of turn number 6, a rejoining back market there. Fortunately, no issues with us we come into the hairpin here, but we are right on the back of this McLaren. Our tyre advantage is really starting to show. Hoping to get a little bit of a mistake though. It's very hard to pass around Imola. Fortunately though, into turn 9 we get that mistake, a wheel on the grass, a big slide through turn 9. I'm cautious going up the inside. As soon as the car looks like it's straightened up though, we get on the throttle and get down the inside into the bowl ahead there of that 9 McLaren, and we reclaim our P6 position in this race with 12 minutes to go. Now we've on the chase again towards this door 4 Ferrari. We've got Luke Addison, the door 1 car. He is now going around the outside of turn 1. Very bold, ambitious move there, starting to show his skill level in LFM, and he gets that pass done to get himself up to position 4. And now the door 4 Ferrari is directly in front with some rear end damage I hadn't noticed before, so a bit of an issue somewhere in the race. He'll be a bit slower in certain parts of the track. However, as we come towards the final lap of the race, there is one final unknown quantity in this one, and that is the door 13 Ferrari, which we have not seen since the stops because he is yet to stop. He's actually pitting right now at the start of the very last lap of the race. He's gone an entire race on one set of tyres, and of course we're really curious now to see what sort of pace he's had, to see where he comes out after this stop. We come around onto the home straight. He's still in the pit lane, as you can see on our pit lane monitor there. It's a long straight here at Imola. He's just on pit lane exit now, and sure enough, he comes out in front as we come up towards turn number 1, just behind there, the door 1 Ferrari, and a few seconds up the road. Obviously not taking tyres with just a single lap left to go. He's obviously had a very good, very consistent run out front there in clean air, and he's really put in the laps. Our jostling for position has not gone in our favour, and as we come to finish the race, despite closing in that last lap, he has managed to hold on to that P4 position. A very bold strategy from that driver, and congratulations to him for making that move. Keeping in front of us here, a good run on this 4 car as we hit the line, but not enough track to make anything happen. We're going to come through for a solid P6 position, no track cuts, no damage on the car. A nice way to begin to recover our Watkins Glen dramas. So race 2 and qualifying time, and I'm going to take you for a lap around Imola in this Ford Mustang and try and talk through a little bit about what I've learned with this car so far. Overall, it has a lot of the same strengths that the BMW has, but a slightly different feel and a slightly different groove that I was taking a while to adjust to. Like I said, it wasn't as good on cold tyres as the BMW, so getting the car switched on was a little bit trickier as we come through turns 5 and 6. Second gear, lots of that second part of the chicane curb, use that runoff and avoid any track cuts. Now down to the hairpin, I take a little bit too much of that inside curb and over rotate the car a little bit, and that's going to lose me a bunch of the advantage I had to this point. A 141.4 is my best lap so far in 26 degrees, which isn't too bad. Now we overbrake a little bit into the turn 9 and really play with those track limits there, just holding on to it but losing all of the advantage that I'd gained to this point. and really throwing it down the hill here, out the other side. Like I see, second gear, you can really use second gear well, but you've got to get into that corner nicely and get on the throttle really early to make that work. Down to the chicane now. It doesn't feel as nice over the chicane as the BMW does. Still trying to find out my braking point and the feeling of the car over those two corners, and we're losing a little bit of time out the other side, but still a 10th up at this stage into these final corners. Braking late, down to first gear, get the car rotated up into second gear for this final corner, and you can use the traction control to get on the power early there, using all of that exit curb and down the home straight, opening up the power, revving it out all the way through to 8300 RPM. We're going to come across the line there for a 141.290, P7 in this session, and in a train of Fords, you can see there 5 Fords in the top 10. So we're going to have all these Fords around us at the start of this race, all with very similar strengths. So this is going to be a much different race to the previous, where I was surrounded by all those mid-engine cars. We get the green light and we're underway. Ford on the outside, Ford's in front, and Nissan and BMW behind, cautious into turn 1. Unfortunately, no contact through these opening corners. Running a little bit wide out of 2, trying to get on the power nice and early. Not the best exit out of 3, and a big powerful Mustang behind. He's got a good run on us here, showing that it knows a little bit, and we're going to go a long way around 5, trying to get it stopped at turn 6, taking a little bit of a rear contact as that other Ford tries to crisscross, and we have to be defensive into the hairpin here. Very hard on cold tyres to get this car turned and out the other side to hold on to this P7 position through the first part of this race. However, the pressure does not stop. That car 6 Ford with still a good run up to turn number 9. Very cautious through here. Unfortunately, pull a little bit of a gap out of turn 9 against that Ford behind as we approach down the hill here. Now, first gear in cold tyres and in race trim, out the other side, and actually just holding on to some track limits there, but gaining more advantage, and now we can be a bit more eyes forward as we get through the first lap. Up ahead, some drama in front for the car 3 Mustang. He runs very wide into the gravel off turn 1, some contact there, I believe, with the McLaren. He's going to rejoin a few places back just outside the top 10, expecting him to come through later in the race. And then up towards the chicane now on this lap number 2. We're a little bit aggressive through the second part of the chicane and pick up a track cut warning. We did not get any track cuts in that very first race, but picking one up there on lap number 2 of this second race. Right, and a small jump up to the end of lap number 4, and a bit of a drama in front for the number 4 McLaren. He's going to get overtaken by both the Mustangs that were in front of me, becoming the next car in the queue. Despite holding on to this P6 position and gaining a little bit of an advantage over the cars behind, I was a little bit out of sorts at the start of this race. I've yet to set a valid lap in this race, picking up obviously that one track cut, and as we come out the other side here, we're going to pick up a second one here on lap number 5, really putting some pressure on, and like I said, feeling a bit out of sorts. Lap number 7 here, still behind these cars and pushing a bit too hard once again. So with 33 minutes and 30 seconds of this race, I've picked up my third and final track cut warning already, and with now pressure mounting with this big queue of cars here from the start of P number 3 all the way through to the top 10, we are in a lot of pressure. That door 4 McLaren, he jumps into the lane. 31 minutes of this race still to go, opening up a little bit of a time in front there, a 141.8 on that lap for the train of cars, so the pace is not too bad here considering the slightly higher track temperatures. Number 6 Mustang behind, he runs wide at turn 1, out braking himself a little bit, opening up that gap behind, and it's the door 3 Mustang who is going to try and make a bit of an overtake behind. As like I said, he had that issue in the start of lap number 2, making his way back up through the field, but taking some pressure off me as we get into lap number 9 here at the hairpin. Bit of a mistake for that car 9 in front, so the car 8 Mustang, he's now side by side, and he's going to go the long way around here at turn 9 with enough power there to actually slot into the racing line before turn number 9, so a swap of positions there. Coming up to the end of lap number 12, halfway through, we've got a bit of a back marker there. That door 3 Mustang, who made that pass earlier. He has slowly been making his way up to me, running a bit wide there at the exit of turn 12, and fortunately not picking up any more track cuts. That was the thing I was worried most about, and I really didn't like having a lot of these cars around me. In fact, I'd much prefer to have my own little piece of racetrack at this point to avoid any contact. Now that lapped car runs wide out of the chicane. I'm expecting him to actually let me through here, but awkwardly stays in the racing line. I'm wanting to come into the pit lane in this lap as well, so I don't want to get involved with this car too much, hoping that he's going to have a good exit here out of the last corner. It's very, very awkward, and I hope he also doesn't brake at this moment. Here I go, ducking into the lane now and getting myself out of that one. A bit more cautious into the lane, really having to put the anchors on to make sure I get it stopped. And as we come out of the pit lane, we have that door 4 McLaren come by us with a few seconds advantage on us up the road. So his undercut strategy, keeping him in clear air, has gained a tiny bit of an advantage, but potentially not as much as I expected it to, considering the issue with the back markers and other issues during the 9 minutes between my stop and his. Push forward a few laps and everyone else has made their pit stop as well. We find ourselves once again in the queue of cars. It's the door 3 Mustang that's benefited the most, jumping a few positions up into P8 at this stage, and I'm now behind this door 9 Mustang, who is looking a little bit ropey at the start of his stint, and I've got a nice run on him here and unable to throw it up the inside into the hairpin. He moves to cover, and I'm immediately put under pressure now by the number 2 Honda. He's got a good run out of the hairpin. He's showing the nose now up towards turn 9. I'm just able to hold on and take the racing line, but he's showing some big pressure here, and it's not really where I want to be considering my issue with the track limits as well. Up into the chicane on this lap number 18, and we're too cautious through the chicane here. The Honda gets a really good run, and he is now directly on me as we come down to the final set of corners, which is stronger for the Honda compared to the Mustang. We're having to run a narrow line to defend into the final corner here, but unfortunately I do run wide as a result, and he's able to sort of stick the nose in awkwardly into the final corner. I open the steering to give him a little bit of space, bit of contact on the rear, and he's now up the inside on the home straight, and I'm relying on this Ford Mustang's big power, this big straight line speed advantage that I have to pull in ahead. And in fact, it's the Ford at the back of this queue now starting to put a bit of pressure on that Honda into turn number 1. We're able to take our normal racing line into the first corner, but a little bit awkward through the second and third parts, but fortunately holding on to survive that attack from that Honda, trying to be eyes forward once again. Pushing on for a few laps, and I do gain a little bit of an advantage despite having some very scrappy laps. However, it's all about to come undone for me here. A car off on the inside of the circuit spins to recover onto the racing line. I have absolutely nowhere to go. A terrible rejoin from that Mustang driver, and we have a really big front end damage. Now losing out to the Honda and the Ford. Behind, I've got this BMW trying to make a move up the inside. I move a little bit under brakes there. Apologies to that driver, I can see his annoyance. And as we come up to the hairpin, the number 6 Ford, he just runs completely wide there at the hairpin, off track, and we actually able to recover back to P7. But the issue I have now is the severe front end damage to my car. It's a terrible rejoin, and it's going to completely undo a lot of my good work in this race. This point, I immediately start recognizing that the car does not turn as nicely as it once did. But as we come down out of the bowl here, you can see it just does not want to make the apex. And of course, playing with the issue with track limits that I have, this was the last thing that I needed at this stage of the race with 10 minutes still to go. Trying to get through the chicane here, does not want to make the first part of the chicane out the other side, and that BMW immediately is back onto me despite losing nearly a second out of that turn 6 exit, and he's going to have a bit of a run on me down into these final corners. We are going to go stay very inside here. I run a little bit long, he's on my outside, try my best to give him some space and trying to get out the other side here with a decent exit, and already 3/10 back. He's flashing me, considering he's a bit unhappy with me at this point, but I think that defense was okay through those final corners. You can see absolutely no straight line speed anymore. That BMW is having a really good run on me, Just everything about this car, all its strengths are now gone. He dives up the inside at turn 1. We go underneath and trying to get a good run here out of turns 3 and 4, which we fortunately do. We're going to go up in the inside now as we head up to turn number 5. I really want to hold on to as many positions as possible here. And we go take the racing line through 6, and that's a nice way to get those positions back. Despite the damage, trying to fight hard and trying to hold on to the result that I've worked hard to get to in this race. Behind we've got the Ford and that BMW having a bit of a battle, and we again open up some time there and take a little bit of pressure off me. 8 minutes and 50 seconds to go. However, by the end of that lap, that BMW is immediately back on me as we head out of that final turn. I just have absolutely no pace left in this Mustang, losing seconds every single lap. And once again, the BMW has a run down the front straight. This should not be something the BMW even has, just no top end speed anymore. All the advantages of this car are gone. Now we're going to let him have this one through turn number 1, not fight him as hard as I did. I've already fought him hard already, don't want to cause any further issues. And now we are defending against the number 8 Ford Mustang, who is the car who ultimately caused all this damage to start with that rejoin. And we are going to get out of turn 6 okay, down to the turn 7 hairpin, running long at the apex unfortunately, and that will allow the number 8 Ford Mustang with a run up towards turns 8 and 9 side by side, and we're not going to be able to hold it around the outside of turn 9. Cautious of those track limits. We try and cut underneath, which we managed to do so, and now once again on the outside as we come down towards turn 11 and 12. That's not a good idea as well, so we let him by, and remarkably I can see just such little damage on the back of his car despite the contact that we had. Up to the chicane now, we've got the Ford number 6 behind, and we're really cautious into the chicane. He pokes the nose in, and I'm actually okay to let him by at this stage. He runs wide on the exit, but there's just going to be no way of holding back this car through the rest of this race. Fortunately though, he actually redresses that one. He felt obviously the need to do so, although like I said, I was actually really happy if he just carried on with his race. It's going to be inevitable that he gets by me, and sure enough, as we get down the following lap, I go really long at turn 12, just holding it in the track limits, and we let off to let that car by, who's had a good run out of that corner. Just want to run my own race for the rest of it. I'm in P10, and holding on to that P10 position would be the result that would be proud of despite all those issues. So we're going to come with 2 minutes 10 seconds to go, just a few racing laps left, and we're going to run wide once again, quite significantly this time at turn 7, and that BMW behind door card number 13, he's directly on me once again, and with another Ford behind. So it's pressure all the way through the end of this race. I've started to work out how I can get this car around as quick as possible, but as you can see, 1.3 seconds down and halfway through this last lap, it's just no pace left in it, and I just had to adapt on the fly and run a defensive line, not make any big mistakes like I was running wide at the hairpin, for example, and that was going to be enough. We're going to come into the final corners now and just want to make sure we're slow on entry, hitting those apexes, getting those exits right. We see getting over the apex here, and just out of the final turn now, keeping it in second, a little bit later on the throttle, and that's going to be enough to hold off this BMW behind me. Big pressure, a blunt instrument tool at the end of that one, but a top 10 position, which is the door number, safe enough and happy enough just to get that one finished. A sad way to finish my week. However, ELO and safety rating are in line here, and that's what we were after this week at Imola.
So there we are, guys, another interesting round of results for me in these 2 weeks of LFM. Certainly taking more of a hit on the ELO and safety rating than I would like, but we are on the way back up again after some better results at Imola in week 11. Now overall, using the Mustang has been a positive experience these 2 weeks. Yes, the results haven't gone my way, but this car is fast, and the more I drive it, the more I begin to understand it, being able to extract more and more pace from it. At Watkins Glen, I was able to improve my qualifying and race times, and at Imola, improving my race time by more than 3/10, which is a big number considering I know the track well and am strong there in the BMW. Not able to put it together during the qualifying sessions was just a learning experience from me, and I'm sure with a few more weeks under my belt with this car, we would be able to turn this car on a little bit better in those shorter sessions. But what do you guys think? Is this a car that you'd like to see me use more often? Let me know in the comment section. And is the Mustang a car that you have tried yourself? What do you think of it compared to some of the other cars you've used in ACC? Really hope that you guys are enjoying the final weeks of LFM season 17. Looking forward to trying to produce a strong finish to this season next week. If you want to see how that goes and you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing below, leave a like. But as always guys, race hard, stay positive. We'll see you again soon in another video. Cheers.